She was standing in the middle of my family's dining room, holding a broken china plate she had accidentally knocked off the shelf. And my mother looked at her like she was something scraped off the bottom of a shoe. My wife, the woman I had chosen. The woman I had married in front of lawyers and witnesses and God himself. And my mother said loud enough for every servant in the house to hear, "This is exactly what happens when you drag someone from the gutter into a palace." I remember the way Lily's hands trembled. She didn't cry. She didn't fight back. She just bent down slowly, carefully, and began picking up the broken pieces with her bare fingers. That image, her kneeling on that cold marble floor, while my mother stood over her in pearls, in contempt. It burned itself into my memory, and I didn't stop it. I just stood there. That's the part I'll never forgive myself for. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm the eldest son of the Cole family. If you live anywhere near the east coast of this country, you know that name. Real estate empires, hotel chains, political donations, charity galas with $100 percolate minimum. We were the kind of family whose problems got solved before they became headlines. And I had just created the biggest problem my family had ever faced, at least that's how they saw it. I had married Lily Chen, daughter of a retired school bus driver, and a woman who worked part-time folding laundry at a dry cleaner. She had grown up in a 2-bedroom apartment in a part of the city where my family's cars wouldn't even slow down. She'd put herself through nursing school on 2 part-time jobs and a scholarship. I had met her in a hospital corridor at 2 a.m. when I was sitting outside my father's recovery room after his bypass surgery. She had handed me a cup of bad coffee from the nurse's station and said, "You look like someone who needs this more than you need to pretend you're fine." No one had ever said anything like that to me before. In my world, everyone performed. Everyone smiled at the right time and said the right things and kept their real thoughts buried under designer clothes and rehearsed conversation. Lily just said what she saw. I didn't know how starved I was for that until she did it. We dated for 8 months before I told my family. I already knew what was coming. My mother, Diana Cole, had spent 30 years engineering the perfect social image for this family. She had a woman picked out for me, Serena Whitfield, daughter of a senator, educated at Oxford, fluent in 3 languages and entirely fluent in the language of ambition. My mother had been mentally planning that wedding for years, and I had ruined it. The day I brought Lily to the Cole estate for the first time, my mother didn't even stand up from her chair. She looked Lily over the way you look at something you're deciding whether to return to a store. My brother Marcus laughed at something under his breath. My aunt whispered to my cousin behind her hand. Only my father, still fragile from surgery, still moving slowly, walked over, shook Lily's hand and said, "Welcome." He was the only one. We married quietly, courthouse ceremony with 2 witnesses. My mother didn't come. She sent a card with a lawyer's business card inside. The message was clear. She was already thinking about annulment. We moved into the family estate because my father insisted, said it was easier to manage his recovery with family clothes. What he didn't say, but I think he knew, was that he wanted to give Lily and my mother a chance to reach some kind of peace. He always believed in people more than they deserved. The cruelty started small. My mother would schedule family dinners and forget to tell Lily. She would ask Lily to handle things a housekeeper should handle. Reorganizing the kitchen pantry, returning packages, sorting mail as if Lily were hired help who had wandered into the wrong bedroom. She would make comments at the table about some people not understanding certain social customs, while staring directly at Lily's silverware placement, small things, sharp things, kind of cruelty that leaves no bruises but draws blood every single day. Lily never complained to me, would ask her how she was, and she would say, "I'm okay," with that quiet smile she had, the one that was too steady to be entirely real. I should have pushed harder. I should have seen what I was asking her to absorb every day in that house. But I was managing my father's business recovery at the same time, traveling twice a week, and I told myself she was strong. I used her strength as an excuse to look away. My sister-in-law Charlotte was the worst of them, and she was the most invisible about it. Charlotte had married my brother Marcus 5 years earlier, and had spent every one of those years establishing herself as the unquestioned second in command of the Cole household under my mother. When Lily arrived, that hierarchy felt threatened. Charlotte started rumors inside the house. She told the staff that Lily had stolen a bracelet from my mother's jewelry room, a bracelet that turned out to be exactly where my mother had left it, but the story had already spread. She told my mother that Lily had been seen speaking on the phone with journalists. She manufactured small, suspicious moments and presented them to my mother like evidence. My mother didn't need much convincing. She was already looking for reasons. The lowest moment before everything broke came on a Sunday afternoon. My father's longtime friend, a retired judge named Harold, was visiting for lunch. My father considered Harold almost a brother. My mother had arranged a formal lunch and had explicitly not told Lily about it. Lily walked into the dining room wearing casual clothes while everyone else was dressed formally, and my mother turned to Harold with a performance of embarrassed regret and said, "You'll have to forgive us. Not everyone in this house understands what occasions require." Lily went still. She smiled at Harold, excused herself, and left the room. I followed her into the hallway and found her standing near the window with her back to me, her arms wrapped around herself, just breathing. She turned around when she heard me. Her eyes were wet. She blinked it away so fast I almost missed it. She said, "I'm fine, Ethan. Go back." I wanted to go back in that room and flip the entire table, but I didn't. I went back. I don't know what kind of man that made me. 3 weeks later, everything changed in a way I never could have prepared for. Lily collapsed in the kitchen. One of the staff members found her on the floor near the breakfast counter. By the time I got the call, she was already in an ambulance. I drove to the hospital doing 90 miles an hour on a surface road, and I don't remember a single moment of that drive. All I remember is running through the emergency entrance and a doctor stopping me in the corridor and saying the words that turned my entire body cold. "Your wife's blood work is showing elevated toxicity levels. We need to know if she's been exposed to anything in the last 48 hours. Toxicity. Exposure. The words didn't make sense at first. And then they made too much sense. The next 12 hours were the most terrifying of my life. Lily was unconscious. Her blood pressure had dropped dangerously. The doctors were careful with their language, but one of the nurses, ironically, a colleague who had worked with Lily years before nursing school, pulled me aside quietly and said, "Whatever is in her system isn't from something she consumed by accident. The levels are too consistent." I sat in that hospital corridor and I thought about every meal in that house, every drink, every cup of tea my mother's housekeeper delivered to our room in the morning. I thought about Charlotte's access to the kitchen. I thought about the months of cruelty I had watched and chosen to call manageable. And I felt something inside me collapse, not just with fear, but with guilt so heavy it was almost physical. The police were involved before morning. Toxicology confirmed the presence of a compound used in certain industrial cleaning solutions, something that in small doses, over repeated exposure, would cause exactly what had happened to Lily. The investigation moved to the house. The staff was questioned. Security footage from the kitchen was reviewed. Charlotte broke within 48 hours. It wasn't the police who got to her first. It was my mother. When my mother was shown the footage, Charlotte's hands at the counter, near Lily's morning tea preparation, on 3 separate mornings, my mother went so pale she had to sit down. She called Charlotte into the study, and whatever was said in that room, my brother told me later that Charlotte hadn't slept since. She confessed first to my mother, then to the police. She said she had only wanted to make Lily sick enough that I would see her as a burden. She said she hadn't calculated the accumulation. She said she was sorry. I don't have words for what I felt in that moment. Still don't. I was in Lily's hospital room when she finally opened her eyes on the second day. She looked at me and the first thing she said, the very first thing, before I could speak was, "Don't look like that. I'm still here." I had been holding her hand for hours. I was unshaved and I had been crying in that room alone when no one was watching. I think she could tell. I said her name and I couldn't finish a sentence. I pressed her hand to my face, and I just stayed there. I had spent our entire marriage letting my family treat her like she didn't belong, and she had never once asked me to choose. She had just quietly carried the weight of being unwanted, and still found ways to make my father laugh. She still brought the staff leftover soup, and still curled against my side at night like the world was safe when it wasn't. I told her everything. The investigation, Charlotte, what had been found. She listened without interrupting. Then she said, "I want to go home, Ethan. I want to go home and I don't want to be afraid in my own house anymore." I promised her she wouldn't be. And for the first time in our marriage, I made sure I kept my promise. Charlotte was removed from the family home. The legal process was slow, but she faced charges. My brother Marcus sat in my father's study and said things I hadn't heard him say in 20 years. Honest things, painful things. My mother didn't speak for 3 days, not out of coldness, but out of something that looked like genuine devastation. My father asked that Lily come to his study when she was strong enough. I sat beside her. He said, I should have done more. I knew what was happening, and I told myself it would resolve itself. It almost cost you your life. Lily reached across and took his hand. She said, You were the only one who said welcome. Never forgot that. I watched my father press his hand over his mouth and turn toward the window. I understood then what Lily had always understood, that cruelty damages everyone. She'd endured it with more grace than any of us had deserved. My mother came to see Lily on a quiet Tuesday morning. She said, I was wrong about you. I don't expect you to forgive me today. Lily told me she had cried, because forgiveness is still painful, even when it's sincere, even when it's right. We had a real wedding for months later. Lily wore white in the garden of the Cole estate. My father walked her down the aisle because she had asked him to. The staff who had watched her endure everything clapped the loudest. My mother sat in the front row and cried through the entire ceremony, and for once, nobody tried to perform composure. I look at Lily now, and I still feel the weight of how close I came to losing her. Not just to the hospital, but to the silence. She never needed to be saved. She needed to be chosen. And it took me almost losing her to understand what that actually means. It means standing beside her and saying, this ends now. Before it ever gets to a hospital, I know that now. I carry it. If you've ever silently endured something to protect a love you believed in, drop a heart in the comments. You're not alone. New story drops soon, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next.